Just cut the music. We're alive. Cut the fuck. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Tucker Tuesday. How we doing out there, chat? Happy Tuesday. I haven't talked to you guys in so long. What's going on, guys? How we doing? Hello. Hello. Oh, boy. Hello. What's up? What's up? How we doing? It's been days. A lot of days since the last time I was here streaming with all of you. I hope you're well. That's a joke because it was yesterday. I hosted the AAA yesterday. It's a joke. It's fine. They can't all be zingers. Hours, yes, hours. It's been a multitude of hours. It was a long, slow day at work. Oh, man. Oh, fucking my house is just replete with children, and I am not happy. I'm not thrilled with it because there's kids. Every time I turn around, there's just a different kid there. It's spring break, and they're just there. Always. Oh, God. April Fools next year. Cut it out. Yeah, right? I didn't work today, but my kids were horrible today. Kids are horrible every day because they are children, and that's what they do. They be horrible. Anyway, what's going on, chat? Are we having a good day out there today? Are we having a fun, productive day? Let's see who we got hanging out. TC, McKinley Club member, J. Kate, Stacker member, Shiru Gospel, McKinley member, Sparks Heart, Shadowclaw, ISO Bandit, Fucktard5, what's going on? Zach, how we doing? I had a good pre-stream doing A4C, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. The game is so great. I have never played any of the Assassin's Creed games. Fostonia, starting the show out, talking shit. Stream boss, you bitches. Knock me off, I dare you. I mean, he's throwing it down. He's throwing it down. I don't think they can take you out. Sanute needs to get on Rumble. Sanute is on Rumble. It's just so fucked up because Crowder's shitting up another platform that I can't upload to it. I'm here now making dinner, though. What's for dinner? What's for dinner? Anyway, we're not going to do too much here. We're going to get right into the tuck because we have a decent amount of stuff to cover. 1, 2, 3. We have a decent amount of stuff to cover. So smash the like button, share it out. If you feel so inclined, please hit up the Streamlabs and take Fostonia out so the cocky son of a bitch can quit talking shit to all of you. We're just going to get right to.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. It was just last week that we noticed that parts of the transgender movement seem to be getting militant and possibly dangerous. We did a whole segment about it on Thursday night.
Yes, I was there. We did talk about that. That's definitely interesting, to say the least. Definitely interesting.
That segment was sparred by an NPR segment we had heard and never expected to hear. NPR has always, as a matter of editorial policy, completely opposed the civilian ownership of firearms, with the possible exception of maybe IRS agents. Yet here suddenly was...
Which I am opposed to. I don't think the IRS, the citizens can own guns, but IRS agents, capital IRS agents, yeah.
That very same station, National Public Radio, positively urging trans people to buy guns, as many guns as possible, and if necessary, to use them. The world is dangerous, explained one trans gun owner. You have to be dangerous back. And that seems strange to us. Is the United States...
That's the point of guns, to use them if needed. Trump awarded $122,000 in legal fees from Stormy Daniels. No way. No way they indicted him to turn around and give him money.
It's really a dangerous place for trans people. Well, West Baltimore is dangerous. You could easily get murdered there. But if you're trans in this country, obviously there are many downsides, but there do appear to be some benefits. It's a lot easier to get into Harvard, for example.
Be quiet!
It's definitely easier.
Shut up!
You.
Be quiet!
You, not me. You. Can I do this writ large? Just drag over and... Oh boy, that's going to take a while. The loads, the loads. Here we go. Oh.
The first worm of the summer!
Fostonia. Wormy Slurpee for Shiru Gospel. I mean, it's all right there. That's all right there. And really healed himself up after the quick shin kick from Doc. Doc, who says, fuck the Fed. Doc, I agree with that statement. Yes, indeed. Fuck the Fed. Fucking fuck the Fed. God bless. Fuck the Fed. I just beat the Fed with Stream Labs. Something.
To get a job at Citibank or in the Biden
I noticed Fostonia put a real quick Band-Aid on that shin kick.
White House. If you're transgender can so much as fly a kite, the Pentagon will happily make you an F-35 pilot, just so Hollywood can make a movie about it. Identifying as trans, whatever, again, its downsides, does convey status in this country, which is why so many young people now do. Not a lot of 19-year-olds are pretending to be car mechanics or linemen for a regional power company in eastern Ohio, but plenty of college freshmen do pretend to be members of the opposite sex. And why wouldn't they? The people in charge despise working-class whites, but they venerate the trans community. People are just responding to incentives. It's rational in a way. But that does not explain the anger that we heard in that NPR segment. Why are some trans people so angry, and why do they seem to be mad specifically at traditional Christians? We can't think of any trans person who's ever...
You know exactly why, because Christians are the only religion it's sanctioned to hate anymore.
...been murdered by a pastor. As far as we know, that has never happened. So it's not an actual threat of violence from Christians that's inspiring some trans...
Oh, ISO, you hit affiliate? Nice. Fucking great work. I'll check out the Discord message. I don't see any Discord messages from you, ISO. Messages, direct messages. Oh, these are... No, the last thing I have from you is the Majin Buu thing from Tejas. That's... No, here's a thing. Mother Trucker. That's the only thing I see.
Trans people to buy AR...
Oh, how to make the donation. Oh.
15s. No, it's got to be more fundamental than that. And it is. The trans movement is the mirror image of Christianity, and therefore its natural enemy. In Christianity, the price of admission is admitting that you're not God. Christians openly concede that they have no real power over anything, and for that matter, very little personal virtue. They will tell you to your face that they are sinful and helpless and basically absurd. They're not embarrassed about any of this. They brag about it. That saved a wretch like me, goes the most famous Christian hymn ever written in English. The trans movement takes the opposite view. Trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself. We can change the identity we were born with, they will tell you with wild-eyed certainty. Christians can never agree with this statement because these are powers they believe God alone possesses. That unwillingness to agree, that failure to acknowledge a trans person's dominion over nature, incites and enrages some in the trans community. People who believe they're God.
Didn't the trans shooter target a Christian school? Yes, they did.
Can't stand to be reminded that they're not. So Christianity and transgender orthodoxy are wholly incompatible theologies. They can never be reconciled. They are on a collision course with each other.
Okay, no, I think he's off the mark here a little bit. Trans ideology is not how trans people writ large feel or what they agree with. Trans ideology is just existing. Trans activism is something that is by and large not compatible with anything current year, really.
One side is likely to draw blood before the other side. That's what we concluded last week. Yesterday morning, tragically, our fears were confirmed. A self-identified trans person called Audrey Hale committed mass murder at a Christian school in Nashville. Hale burst into a place called the Convent School and executed 3 9-year-olds as well as 3 adults. Police have released body...
Well, you know, those 9-year-olds are actively being transphobic and should be, you know, defended yourself against from. That made no sense. You knew what I meant, though.
Cam footage from the end of the massacre. We're showing you just a small part of it. You can see the rest online if you want. We're not going to show it because that's too awful and sad. But what was almost as sickening to see in a far more subtle and insidious way was the media coverage of yesterday's tragedy. Here's Terry Moran of ABC News, for example, suggesting that Christians were murdered in Tennessee because they infringed on the rights of transgendered people. Watch.
Audrey Hale was identified herself as a transgender person.
Oh, yeah, Polly showed me this one. This dude, in real time, starts to trip over himself.
State of Tennessee earlier this month passed and the governor signed a bill that banned transgender medical care for minors.
Guess who's taking her first shooting lesson tomorrow? Is it you, Sparks Heart? Are you doing it? I'm sure I have some good shooty donation that somebody could play for Sparks Heart. The John Wick. Shit, I didn't even think about it. I'm sure if somebody was generous enough to hit the John Wick, that could give you a lot of pointers.
As well as a law that prohibited adult entertainment, including male and female impersonators, after a series of drag show controversies in that
Are you drunk? I wish.
state.
The state of Tennessee bans the sexual mutilation of children. Children get shot to death in a school. It's cause and effect. That's what ABC News is telling you. That's not far from justifying mass murder, but others took the next step.
Oh, but that is exactly what they're doing.
A group called the Trans Resistance Network said that the shooter's death was a complex tragedy that resulted from, quote, anti-trans bias. The Hershey Chocolate Company's new trans spokesman, meanwhile, someone called Faye Johnstone, posted messages after the shooting complaining about, quote, trans misogyny. In Canada, a taxpayer-funded trans rights organization...
My dono didn't go through for some reason. Oh, any day now. You cannot use spaces in your names for some reason. You can't use spaces in the name.
Put out a statement that ignored the murder of the children in Nashville entirely and instead claimed that there has been a, quote, exponential rise in anti-trans violence.
Where?
That is a lie. It's a provable lie. And in fact, the opposite is true. We seem to be watching the rise of trans terrorism. The man who tried to murder Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh after the repeal of Roe v. Wade identified as a, quote, trans gamer girl. The man who shot up a nightclub in Colorado in this past November and murdered 5 people identified as non-binary. And now this. And there could be more. Antifa has announced this coming Saturday is the, quote, Trans Day of Vengeance.
I didn't include spaces. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Try again?
Vengeance for what? That's not explained. But the suggestion is there will be violence in Washington this weekend. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted about this today, because if there's a day of vengeance coming, the rest of us should probably...
Faustonia with a good point in chat. 37 out of 20,000 murders. 37 out of 20,000. Is the slabs down? Is Celebity Dues down? No.
...know about it. And for doing so, immediately had her official congressional Twitter account suspended. You're not supposed to talk about any of this, apparently. And the authorities in Nashville certainly are not planning to talk about it. They're doing their best not to. Here's the police chief of Nashville explaining that while he's happy to talk about the shooter's guns, he's not going to tell you anything about the shooter's motives. Watch.
So in the manifesto, there's several different writings about other locations. There were locations, there was talks about the school. There was a map of the school, a drawing of how.
Weird how that manifesto still hasn't been released, isn't it? Very odd.
Potentially she would enter and the assaults that would take place. It's quite a bit of writing to it. I have not read the entire manifesto. Our team and the FBI has been working on this.
Well, that's interesting. Within what seemed like minutes, we saw pictures of the rifles and the pistol. We now have horrifying body cam footage within the school, so unsettling we're not going to show it to you. But somehow we can't see the manifesto in which the killer explains why she killed. Why is that? It's not accidental. Well, you know exactly why.
We're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Your AK-47.
Welcome to the rice fields, mother.
Drop it.
I do. The Veto's a good one. Testing. And some pew-pews for Sparks. Not John Wick, but one of my favorites. Well, that is a fantastic one as well. Fustonia, thank you very much. Thank you. Very appreciated. Getting us up to almost 10% to goal. At 10%, where this... You guys could take out the Fed tonight. You definitely could take out the Fed tonight. But somebody's going to have to come in and take out Fustonia first. Because Fustonia means Fedstonia.
Be quiet! Shut up! Be quiet!
Be quiet! Virtually all of their homicides were tied to drug use and or selling themselves. I have heard that. Thank you, Sergeant Fraggle Rock. Long time no see, buddy. And Fustonia. That is, we're about at 10%. Nice.
Because it would make the obvious undeniable. The trans...
Oh, and if anyone is curious, I have the America McKinley on if anyone's going to hit that, but I could put it over to the Broly one if you guys want that. It's up to you. And 3 McKinley packages. And I keep forgetting because it's been a while, but I have 1 premium comma package left. 1 single premium comma package. You don't want to miss that.
This movement is targeting Christians, including with violence. Most Christian leaders in this country don't want to admit that. Admitting it might force them to take deeply unfashionable positions.
Sam Silent says a single $100 will drop Fustonia. A single $100. A single $100. Think of it as a spirit bomb. It's not even a spirit bomb, but the 100. I don't know if the new 100 has been hit here yet, but the new 100 is pretty fucking dope.
But it is true, and anyone who's paying attention knows that it's true. And so, like most true things at this point, it is officially suppressed. Here, for example, is Joe Biden yelping again about how it's
single $100
all your fault when these tragedies happen because you've got guns at home. This is from
I'm never going to let that go. A single $100.
From yesterday.
We have to do more.
Fucking Sam pulled a Joe Biden. I actually have the perfect meme for this too. $. No, Sam pulled one of these. No. Sam pulled one of these. Single $100.
To stop gun violence. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping at the very soul of the nation. And we have to do more to protect our schools so they aren't turned into prisons. You know,
the schools and the prisons, we have to do more for the schoolings, the preschools.
The shooter in this situation reportedly had 2 assault weapons and a pistol, 2 AK-47.
He had 3 pistols.
And reportedly had 2 assault weapons and a pistol, 2 AK-47.
2 AK-47. You know those dangerous and often used AK-47.
So I call on Congress again to pass my assault weapons ban.
So we're going to prevent you.
No, Sam, I love you. Stop. It's okay. Shut up.
You from learning why the shooter did it, and we don't have to guess because she wrote a whole manifesto about why she did it. And we know that she did that because she told a friend of hers on Instagram that she did it. But we can't see it we can only talk about the guns. We can't know what kind of drugs she was taking, what kind of hormones or SSRIs or
Alzheimer's and Sons. That's fucked up. Alzheimer's and Sons. I like that. I'm going to keep that in my back pocket. Bojangles released a hard sweet tea. Honestly, it needs to be sweeter. I barely even taste the sugar. 5 out of 10. Miserable showing. Like the ratio, chat. You are just as disappointing as this drink I'm going to pour on your grandpa's grave. Fix it, dipshits. Thank you, Steve Dave's booze review. Nice. I like that. He is correct, though. You should smash the like button. You should share it out. And you could consider supporting.
benzodiazepines, we can only guess. We can only talk about the guns. Pass my assault weapons ban. That'll fix the problem. But Joe Biden is lying about that. He knows that he's lying, and you know that he's lying. Yesterday's massacre did not happen because of lax gun.
And I also think it's very important because I put the worst 5 letters in the title of the stream that you possibly could. TRUMP. And I'm sure it's being hidden in the algorithm, so if you could share it out and smash a like, tag me in it maybe, and I'll retweet it. It's I'm sure it's being hidden by our YouTube overlords.
Laws. Yesterday's massacre happened because of a deranged and demonic ideology that is infecting this country with the encouragement of people like Joe Biden. Let's start by
encouragement. No, the outright backing of encouragement kind of makes it seem like he's not putting as much effort behind it as he can. This entire administration has been woke distraction after woke distraction after woke distraction. It's like, okay, oh man, we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars over to Ukraine. Oh man, look what we did. We made gay marriage legal. We had a school shooter who targeted and shot Christian kids. Oh, look, we have to ban assault weapons. Trump! It's all right there.
There's a lot going on the, it's not even clear whether it's fair to call it the left, but the true extremist fringe in this.
I have a hard time.
Shut up! Be quiet!
How many children have been killed by assault weapons in this year alone in the United States? It's starting to become elite. Maybe banning assault rifles would be the wise thing to do. How many people have been killed by assault weapons? None. Because assault weapons are not a real thing. There are no military grade weapons on our streets. So that's that argument taken away from. It's never wise to ban anything. Ever, period. So the answer is 0, and banning assault weapons, which aren't even on the streets. You cannot legally own military weapons in the United States. It's not going to do anything.
Country, and it's not all trans people, of course, but the extremist trans fringe.
Accused graper Joe Biden wants to disarm women. What a surprise. Oh, God, no. These people want to take away your self-defense at every turn.
Is a lot more threatening than most people understand. Andy No has been covering, he's been covering Antifa for
0, and you're dumb.
Years now. He's the author of Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. He's a senior editor at
Well, Jarly, I am sorry that the idea of people being able to protect themselves triggers you so bad. I definitely would not encourage anybody to do anything rash, like play another beta or something like that. That'd be terrible.
Post-millennial, he joins
a John Wick, anything like that. That'd be bad.
us tonight. Andy, thanks so much for coming on. So again, you don't want to get too broad brush here, but there is an extremist movement, obviously. It's very evident online in the aftermath of this mass murder. Are you surprised to see it?
No. So in my reporting on Antifa for years now, one observation that I noticed was that disproportionately the number of riot arrestees are gender diverse, and by that I mean they don't identify with their biological sex. On some nights, it was as high as 20%, and that is
Baba Yaga.
Magnitudes higher than what the data we have on people in the wider American population who are trans-identifying. So, I looked into this a bit further. There's some peer-reviewed research.
drugs are illegal, yet we still have a shit ton of drugs on the streets. Yeah, what are we at? Like 200,000 to 300,000 overdose deaths a year? We should try banning drugs.
Which out of Canada, you can find it on the Library of Medicine, that shows that there's evidence that young transgender people are particularly vulnerable to violent radicalization. And in my reporting on left-wing extremism, for months now, I've documented and tracked this surge in violent rhetoric by self-identified trans militant activists, particularly on Twitter, in response to various states restricting or banning the medical transitioning of minors. As you mentioned earlier,
oh shit, Fraggle Rock pushed us over to 10%. Nice.
Horrific murder of children and staff at the Christian school yesterday does come just days ahead of a so-called Trans Day of Vengeance that's being organized in the U.S. Capitol. And unfortunately, myself and other people who have reported on this and posted this flyer, which, by the way, that group is still online. If you posted the flyer, regardless of the context, you're locked up.
Oh my God, his voice is so...
out of your account. So currently I cannot access my Twitter.
Can I ask you just a quick macro question? So one of the reasons that so many well-meaning middle-aged moms in this country have bought in...
The only problem is that weapons kill allet of children at the schools. It happens often, sadly. Owning a gun is not the problem, but holding rifles that can shoot allet of rounds is a problem. You are not American, are you? If only there were, I don't know, something that didn't shoot every time you pulled the trigger. And just once every third time.
The support of the trans community is on the basis of the promise that it's liberation and this is kids when they finally express their true inner identity.
No, you can't, Sherry. Smug Druggles. Hey, shut up, man. I made a killing off of them there in the Dems office. Thank you.
Will be happier and better adjusted. But the incidence of violence and mental illness seems to be extraordinary. So it doesn't seem like people are being liberated. It seems like people are being tormented and driven to the brink of insanity. That, just watching, that seems clear.
It's the exact opposite of liberation. We have mountains of evidence that people who suffer from gender dysphoria also suffer from very high rates of mental health comorbidities. When you have this reality on top of people being fed cross-sex hormones and are also being in an environment where they are encouraged to have a violent hatred of wider society, and you can say
Skip.
Clay Noir is an advocate for the Second Amendment. He's seen a lot.
Me too. I love the Second Amendment. I enjoy everything about it.
A lot of these, probably not shocked as we are, joins us tonight to respond to it. This does seem, even by the standards of the Disarm the Population group, this does seem pretty shameless.
No, it really is, especially considering the amount of information that people have now with respect to the stats. Like, the vast majority of these shootings are committed with handguns. I mean, we're talking the...
Marthblood, that's a name I have not seen in a while. Turn in your gun to stop school shootings, yeah.
Vast majority. Right. So for them to follow it up immediately after and talk about what is used a fraction of the time in these shootings...
Sin needs a lot... Sin needs more of dollars. Sam, I appreciate the effort. Platty, it's funny because all the weapons were using pistol caliber rounds. Technically, they were all pistols or pistol carbines.
It kind of speaks very loudly to how disingenuous they are about actually looking for a solution. They're trying to get a goal, and the goal essentially is to get gun control. That's really all they care about. So it's almost as if they wait for these types of tragedies to happen so that they can leverage it to get their goal. Because if we were talking solutions, we wouldn't be talking about a gun that's used a fraction of the time in these types of shootings. We'd be talking about, okay, how do we take what are soft targets and make them hard?
That's a good point. Instead of taking away the thing that you cannot take away, why don't you protect the thing you're trying to protect?
We're like, that's not even mentioned. And then when it's brought up, they say things like, well, we don't want our schools to look like prisons. Why are we talking aesthetics when we're talking about the safety of our children?
Shut up!
I
Be
know.
quiet!
I know. Guns are non-negotiable. They need to be in our hands and they need to be capable. I'm sorry. They need to be in our hands and they need to be more capable than the POS we have. That's a fucking fact. Where's my bell? Get a ding, 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 ding. Nice.
Can I ask a question? Like, what if you really cared about the murder of innocents? And I think most people, I do, people who disagree with me and everything, I think people do care. But if you were rational about it, you would want to know all the factors that led to it, and you'd want a tox screen from the blood of the killer. Like, a lot of these people seem like they're on an awful lot of pharmaceuticals. What other pharmaceuticals? Why can't we know that? And if they describe their motive in writing in a manifesto, why can't we see that? I don't understand. I mean, we're being lied to while the children haven't even been buried yet. I don't know why no one else is offended by that.
You know, that's interesting you said that, Tucker. I actually was talking with a good friend of mine, and he stated the same thing. He was like, all of these things have been released to us rather quickly. We have the video of the cops actually taking down the suspect. We have all of this information, except for the information that really matters most to get to the deeper issue involved here. Because you got to think about the type of mentality and mindset of somebody who can look at a child, point a gun at them, and pull the trigger.
That's not somebody who is going to generally follow law. Someone who's going to go, hey, that 9-year-old made Tennessee transphobic. That's not somebody who's worried about gun laws.
It's dark. Or possibly there's something else going on here, but we don't know. We can't get any insight because, as you pointed out succinctly, we don't have that information and they don't want to give it to us.
But they never want to explain why anything happens. Why did 9/11 happen? I still don't know. I honestly don't. I mean that. They hate our freedoms. Okay, but what's the... Really? Was there more to it than that? Why did Russia invade Ukraine? It seemed like kind of counterintuitive. Why'd they do that? Why did these mass shootings happen? Well, I mean, maybe there's a reason, but why aren't we talking about it? Seriously.
Well, because I think you maintain more control if you can control the narrative. And you can't control the narrative when you have the truth. Because the truth will supersede the narrative if the narrative doesn't line up with the truth.
The narrative always supersedes the truth in this current. I struggle to call it an administration. The Alzheimer's and Sons thing seems to be the most apt description. But the narrative between the Alzheimer's and Sons and the... How do I even word this? The media lackeys is always paramount. Always is. Disarming the population has historically been followed by mass executions of undesirables almost 100% of the time. Yeah, but you're not allowed to talk about that because we're the undesirables, so shut up. You are the carbon they want to eliminate.
So, of course, I'm going to shield you from the truth so I can control the narrative and get you to do what I want.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But in a democracy, you can't lie to the population. Okay, that's not allowed because it's a self-governing country, so you can't do that, but they do it. Colleen Moore, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.
Yes, fake gamer cat, hate fact, hate fact.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. We're having a lot of gun control debates this week. And it's possible you've heard an advocate for gun control say that in this country we have more firearms in civilian hands than...
No, not yet, Slim, not yet. I'm gonna make time. I'm hoping Thursday. We're taking the kids to the fucking science center tomorrow, so I'm hoping Thursday.
We have civilian hands. And that is true, actually. The total American population is about 332 million people, and collectively they own more than 400 million firearms. About half of all U.S. households have at least one gun at home, and many have much more than that. Plus they have ammo, billions and billions of rounds of it. Those are all real numbers, but they are hardly an argument for gun control. They're an argument, in fact, against it.
I want to go to the science center. Look, I already got to pay for 5 people to go. No more of you freeloaders. I'm hoping to make enough money tonight just to cover the cost of that shit.
Ask yourself, what would it require to confiscate all those guns and all that ammunition and turn the United States into a disarmed nation like Turkmenistan or North Korea? Well, it would take a police state, and it would end in civil war. No sane person wants either one of those things, but thankfully, we don't need them. The fact that so many Americans have a firearm within reach but never commit violence tells you that guns are not the problem.
They never were the problem.
Most people in this country can be trusted with an AR-15, just as we can be trusted with cars and light aircraft and electricity and baseball bats and insecticide and chainsaws and pruning shears and countless other objects.
We don't only... How do you manage to fuck this up so terribly? We don't only have the numbers. We have everything. We have everything.
It could easily double as weapons. On some level, all of us understand this. The problem is always the person, not the tool he uses to commit a crime. If you wanted to stop murder, you would focus on the people.
They raised the price? They're $20 per person? Oh shit, we might not be going to the Science Center. $20 per person? Oh my fucking God.
People who are committing murder, not on the hundreds of millions of their neighbors who are not. You'd really want to know what motive.
The Great Lakes Science Center is a massive, fucking awesome place. But I don't have $100 just to throw at this. That fucking... Jeez.
Motivated killers to kill. And the first thing you would do is study what murder...
Don't do that.
I know. I shouldn't do that. A reminder that Switzerland has the highest per capita gun ownership and one of the lowest crime rates in the entirety of Europe. And that's crazy. Kids don't get in for free? No, kids are fucking... It's $20. It's $20 per person. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Kids are $17. Jesus fucking shitball Christ.
have in common with one another. How they were raised and where, their educational backgrounds, their genetic makeup, drug and alcohol use, their ideological and religious views, their sexual behavior, and probably a whole lot of other factors. You would study murderers, and you would do it with an open mind, as a scientist would. You would be serious about it because it matters. In the late 19th century, researchers finally decided that infection is spread by germs, and as a result of that conclusion, surgeons are now required to wash their hands before they cut you open. Everybody agrees that this is progress. But what if we had refused to learn how infection is spread? What if we just...
No family deals? $20 per adult, 15 something per child. No family deals, nothing. That's fucking ridiculous. I mean, honestly, I'm still probably going to take them to go, but that is insane.
Didn't want to know. Well, appendectomies would still be fatal, and we would be a backward, ridiculous, uncaring people. It's impossible even to imagine that. And yet, on the question of violent crime, of murder, it's very easy to imagine that because it's happening. Our leaders are determined not to know why people shoot each other, and they don't want us to know either. They're adamant that we do not ask questions about motive.
Groupon. That doesn't seem like something Groupon would. Groupon. 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 Come on, Groupon. Sign up. I'm not signing up. Great Lakes Science Center. Great Lakes Science Center. Hello? Hello? No deals, but you may like Mudvayne tickets.
It seems, for example, like an awful lot of mass shooters have taken prescription psychiatric drugs in the days before they opened fire and killed others. Have you noticed that? Maybe you have noticed that. Good luck saying it in public. You'll be shouted down immediately by someone with an advanced degree. How dare you criticize Big Pharma? What are you, a conspiracy nut? No, actually you're not. You're someone who cares about cause and effect. You're a rational person.
Give a total cost, 15, 3, 45, 40 for adults, 85 something.
The only conspiracy here is the one designed to prevent you from figuring out why mass shootings keep happening. Consider...
And God knows if they have tax and a convenience fee, which... You know, fuck it, either way, I'm gonna take them, but Jesus Christ, that's insane.
The killings that took place on Monday in Nashville. The killer was a 28-year-old female transgenderist who shot her way into a Christian elementary school and murdered 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults. Why did she do that? In a rational country, that is the very...
Zach, being very helpful. Living Social, Great Lakes Science Center deal, only $29 for 4 passes. 10 years ago.
Be quiet! Shut up! Be quiet!
Fucking 10 years ago. Thanks, Zach. Very, very helpful. Here's some dough toward the ticket. And there's an after credit scene at the site. Oh, to John Wick. Yeah, no, I'm going. I'm gonna go Thursday. I just have to go see it.
First question we would ask.
Zach, I appreciate the effort, though.
In our country, it's the last question. In fact, often it's never asked at all. On those rare occasions when somebody finally manages to wonder out loud about motive, our leaders...
No, you're not allowed to ask the motive of this one.
...immediately start lying, which should tell you a lot. Here's the Attorney General of the United States yesterday.
I realize that the shooter is dead, but the shooter could have had collaborators. Do you plan on opening a hate crime investigation for the targeting of Christians?
The FBI and ATF are both on the scene.
Apparently I can't have an OnlyFans and work at Starbucks. Says who?
Working with the local police. As of now, motive hasn't been identified, and the police chief said at the last...
So he's just blatantly lying. He is just blatantly lying about this.
This last press conference that they don't yet have reached a conclusion with respect to motive. We are certainly working full-time with them to try and determine what the motive is, and of course motive is what determines whether it's a hate crime.
Sinlets are going to flood OnlyFans? Well, they should. What? No, I'm not. Why would you get free admission with that, Lady Monteceros? But no, I don't. No, I don't go with them. What you guys should be flooding is my OnlyFans, because I'm getting ready to put out the next Sexy Science Theater, which should be up in the next few days.
Or not.
So here's what we just learned from Merrick Garland. The FBI,
all right, Alec, take it easy.
The ATF, and the Nashville police are all investigating these shootings. Yet, more than 24 hours after they took place, none of those professional investigators can even guess as to why the shootings happened. Motive hasn't been identified, Garland told us. Really? You wonder how that...
They only have group sales for groups of 10 or more? Jesus.
...could possibly be. Just before she opened...
Link it. I can't link it. We just went over yesterday about YouTube removing stuff they find unsafe. It's on my Twitter.
Fire. The Nashville shooter wrote these words to her best friend over Instagram. Quote, "One day this will make more sense. I've left behind more than enough evidence." That evidence includes...
Yes, Luna is right. Release the manifesto. Release the manifesto immediately.
A written manifesto where the killer spells...
Pin it in general. I already did.
...spells out exactly why she killed children. The FBI, the ATF, the Nashville police, and for that matter, Merrick Garland, all have access to that manifesto. And yet somehow the Attorney General informs us that a motive has not yet been identified. Well, he's lying. They all are lying. We can't see the manifesto because the transgender lobby, which has far more power than you do, has pressured politicians to keep it hidden. But we can be certain what it says.
I did not.
Monday's victims were murdered because they were Christians. It's that simple. Transgenderists hate Christians above all, not because Christians are a physical threat. The third graders were not a physical threat, but because Christians refuse to join every other liar in our society and proclaim that transgenderists are gods with the power.
Well, I think that's something we just kind of have to come to. God bless. God bless. Jay Dyer, been lurking for a majority of my years here. Love your content, and I'm glad for the entertainment you provide, or I'm glad you provide me entertainment. Use this how you see fit. Jay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's incredibly generous. The big Awoo. And where's my clicker? Where's my clicker? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
What the fuck?
Jesus Christ. That's Jason Bourne.
I just clicked the 10 Awoos on the train. And immediately, the train got derailed. That wasn't even a minute. That wasn't even 10 seconds. That has to go down as the quickest Awoo train ever. There it is. That's the quickest Awoo train we've ever had here. It's it. That's the quickest one. Thanks, mailman. John wished to discount the Science Center. No, the Science Center honestly is amazing. There's so much hands-on stuff. Their kids are gonna go insane. I'll take pictures, but obviously I'm not showing the kids. But I'll take pictures of the Science Center. I'll bring my DSLR. I'll take some good photos. I don't know. Just take the kids. I'm going to take the kids. Thank you, Mailman. Mailman and Jay Dyer back to back with the incredible generosity, guys. Thank you so much. Mailman did shit on the immediate creation of a 10 Awoo train. Yeah, Jay said, I can't have anything nice in the hood. Oh, fake gamer cat. Let me see if I can bring up photos of it. Guys, let's get a big thank you to both of them in the chat. Very generous and knocking us up to 20% to goal. And if we fill the bar, we can have a song or a horse cock. It's up to you, whoever fills it up.
Power to change nature itself. Christians are not allowed to say that. They have their own God. And for that refusal, that unwillingness to bow down and worship a false idol, in this case of transgenderism, they were murdered. We have never seen this battle so starkly set as it is now. And it opens to us, to our eyes, the main divide in America. And it's not between race or political party. It's not even between religious affiliation. The divide is between people who think they are God and those...
Oh, yes, and the knocking off of... Wrong button. The knocking off of Stream Boss. That gets some confetti for show. One more. Bang. Look at me saying, I am the child. You take me to the Science Center. Oh, man. Do they not just have... Oh, okay. Here, we'll bring it up here. They have a steamship out front, out of the ordinary exhibits. They have nano exhibits, the wind turbines, how wind works, augmented reality, sandbox. Like, they have a ton of shit. They have a very well put together website. It's very hands-on, a lot of shit. NASA, science experiments, all that. It's a dope place to go.
Who know they are not God.
That is what the tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
You know what's up. My favorite yet again, now and forever. Thank you so much, Scout. Damn, okay, we are up over the 20% goal. You guys can nuke the Fed if you keep it up. God bless.
Nashville shooting was about, is what virtually everything is about. That conflicts exist because these two...
We need to be able to talk about stuff like this when it happens as adults. The shooter was motivated by anti-trans laws. The media has construed anything anti-trans as Republican and Christian. So the shooter took out their anger on Christians. It's exactly what happened.
Groups could not be more different. They will be forever at odds with one another, and they always have been. People who know they are not God are by definition restrained. They understand the limits of their own power and of their virtue. They appreciate the complexity of the world, which they freely admit they don't really understand because no human can fully understand it.
My kids just took her first steps. No way. God, give up hearts in the chat for little sparks. Little spark. Hey, always lost. Long time no see, buddy.
May not always be good people, but they're certainly less dangerous.
Right. What I was doing was adding the link tree to the Discord.
People, if only because their ambitions are limited by the acknowledgement of reality. Only God can do certain things, and they know they are not him. Now, people who think they are God are not like this at all. People who believe they're God have no natural limits because God has no limits, nor do they have any real concern for others. They are their own God. They worship themselves. In Freudian terms, they are narcissists, and narcissists admit no fault. They externalize everything. They always blame others. So not surprisingly, given this, transgenderists and their allies spent today attacking Christians just days after a transgenderist murdered Christian children. Here's Congresswoman Catherine Clark of Massachusetts on the House floor.
Layered in my pride is my concern for you. I know your strength.
Does anybody believe for a second any of these people have any actual concerns for anybody who's not them?
But I also know how determined the forces are that have pitted themselves against you. The politicians and preachers who would rather see you languish in a dark closet than watch you engage the world as you do, cultivating joy and love wherever you go. Let's reject the forces of opposition and bigotry. Let's celebrate the bravery and beauty of our trans community.
Let's... this is ridiculous.
Cultivating joy and love wherever you go. This in response to the murder of children.
6 people were massacred, and they're like, well, we should love the shooter. No. No, we shouldn't. We should be adults enough to know that the shooter is not representative of all trans people. I think we can all kind of realize that and kind of come to terms with it. But also, I don't think we need to turn around and fall over ourselves to love the shooter.
By a self-described trans person. You're the victim, transgenderists, not the dead children in Nashville. And of course, virtually everyone in power in this country agreed. Amazon, the company, sent an email to its employees from its LGBTQ+ department, assuring its trans employees that they were affirmed and they were great people. No mention whatsoever of the dead children in Nashville. Their concern was the only concern. And then NBC News ran this headline, one of many like it. Tennessee's trans community's concerned because of the focus on the identity of the shooter. No update from NBC on how the Christian community in Nashville is doing, because who cares? They're just mortals. Their concerns aren't meaningful. Joe Biden certainly doesn't care. Watch him chuckle as he talks about Monday's massacre.
God, this has got to be the worst response to everything, anything Biden has done. And this isn't even the, oh, I have ice cream. I have ice cream.
Christians were targeted in a Nashville school shooting. You believe that Christians were targeted? I have no idea. Josh Hawley believes they were. What do you say to that? Well, I probably don't that.
No, I have no idea. Fuck these people. Fuck these people. They hate you. They hate everything you stand for. And they want you dead. And they think it's funny. Nuke the fucking Fed.
People who believe they're God will always turn their rage and frustration outward. They will never blame themselves. How could they? They are God. So you should not be surprised to learn that in the wake of this shooting, when their agenda is revealed for all to see...
Man, shut your... Yes. As a Christian, I hate soapbox people speaking for me, saying I was taught to love and hope for the best for others. If anyone spits on a person's lifestyle, they got hang-ups themselves. Or those monsters... Hold on. If anyone spits on another person's lifestyle, they got hang-ups themselves. Or those monsters up top. The monsters up top just hate people. The monsters up top just hate people. But... yeah, no. Most people don't give a shit if you're trans. This is something we all need to realize.
There will be no contrition, no changing of ways. There will only be acceleration, and there will be more violence coming. And they're telling us that. The press secretary for the governor of Arizona, Katie Hobbs, someone called Jocelyn Berry, who was just resigned apparently, uploaded this photograph hours after the killing along with the message, "Us when we see transphobes."
Ooh, that's bad. No, 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 no. No, no, no. I mean it when I say it. God bless all you chat and sin. Well, God bless you, Punch Drunk. I appreciate it, buddy.
A woman with a gun in her hand, hours after a woman with a gun in her hand killed Christian children in Nashville. In other words, the Christians had it coming.
I mean, that's pretty much what it is. They're pulling out the, oh, your skirt was too short. You were asking for it. You were dressed too sexy.
Don't affirm our delusions. We will murder you. Again, this is someone who works for the moderate governor of Arizona, who beat the radical Kari Lake. And once again, this will continue and it will gather speed because the more they are revealed, the more they double down. They can never admit they are wrong because they believe they are gods with the power to control nature. So once again, you should not be surprised at all that there is something called the Trans Day of Vengeance coming this weekend, planned by Antifa in Washington, D.C. It was originally called the Trans Day of Visibility.
Damn it. But wear a mask, bring a buddy. Okay.
But the Trans Radical Activist Network...
C. Thomas, we're no longer to celebrate functional adults anymore. Do we all have to drop to our knees and praise the all mentally ill, like they are some kind of faux Buddha? We need to normalize functionality and cast off this toxic childish bullshit. We can't do that until we actually cast off people who pretend to be children. I was talking to a trans viewer today, and I messaged him, and I was like, "Hey, can I pick your brain real quick? Is it transphobic for me to shit on Dylan Mulvaney and their performative bullshit?" And they pretty much said, no, most trans people don't believe they're trans, but they have a huge audience and are kind of a net neutral to the movement. And I was like, okay, so is it? He said, no. No, it's not transphobic. Huh? Oh. So, yeah, Dylan Mulvaney is a grown adult pretending to be a child. That's the kind of shit we need to distance ourselves from. If trans people want to talk about being accepted, sure, that's perfectly fine. You should be accepted. You're just as valid as anybody else, in my opinion. But it's when you start threatening people, that's where you kind of lose me.
The organizers decided to change the name just before the massacre in Nashville. Now it's a Trans Day of Vengeance. And they mean vengeance. Vengeance for what? That's not clear. They've been caught,
and
so they become more aggressive as people who...
That is one on the Awoo train. Can we get an actual train going?
Worship themselves always do, and you can see it all over social media, threatening images everywhere. One trans activist posted this message yesterday, quote, kill Christ cucks, behead Christ cucks, roundhouse kick a Christ cuck into the concrete, slam dunk a Christ cuck baby into the trash can.
That is exactly where you lose me. Right there, when you're threatening physical violence for people who aren't even doing anything to you. That's the line where that is actual threats of violence. That is actual threats of violence. We will spread our peaceful ways by force.
Attached to this post is an image of someone holding a rifle and wearing body armor. Now, you would think in a country supposedly as sensitive to violence as ours, run by an administration that wants to end gun violence, that the Justice Department would be all over this because they're terrified, of course, of groups with guns who are organized.
But when that happens and they try to, roundhouse kick a Christ cuck, or they try to slam dunk another baby into a fucking trash can at the barrel of a Caltech 9, they're going to be poor choice of words. They're going to be astonished when people defend themselves. Platy, Christ cuck, what the hell is that supposed to mean? I think it means anybody who's Christian. That would be my guess. Anyone who's Christian or religious in any sense.
Organized, trying to upset the social order. But in this case, they're not terrified at all. They have no problem with this whatsoever. We called the DOJ today to ask, what are you doing about this? They didn't bother to get back to us. Meanwhile, the tech barons are, as always, making sure you don't even know what's happening. Twitter, which was supposed to be free, has banned several users, including a sitting member of Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Andy Ngo, Sean Davis, for mentioning the existence of the Trans Day of Vengeance.
Well, you're not allowed to talk about it. And okay, trans people in the audience, I know, Platy, I don't know what you transitioned from to, so you're just Platy. Lisa, the other people, if you're out there, let me know. Do any of these people even remotely speak for you?
You're not supposed to know what's coming. The head of trust at Twitter, a woman called Ella
Male to female. Okay, I didn't know.
Irwin, is deliberately silencing reporting on this day of vengeance. Because again, it's coming. But
that is exactly how little I care too, by the way, if you're trans. You're fine. I don't even know. Male to female, these fuckers do not speak for me, not in the slightest. I know they don't speak for Wingy. I know that for a fact.
You shouldn't be allowed to prepare for it. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our...
But see, that's the thing, and I will beat it. I will beat it over the head of anybody who's listening to me. Activists do not speak for people. LGBT activists do not speak for LGBT people. Trans activists do not speak for trans people. They speak for themselves.
If you wanted to destroy the most powerful military in the world, what would you do? Well, among the many things you might...
Lisa, I was trying to rack my brain to think of what you said that got you the wrench, and I cannot fucking remember, so can you please remind me?
Try is hosting drag queen story hours on military bases for kids. And today, Congressman Matt Gaetz, who represents maybe more...
Matt Based, you mean?
...uniformed military than anybody in the Congress, confronted the defense secretary about it directly. Watch.
How much taxpayer money should go to fund drag queen story hours on military bases?
None. It was a joke. Yes, it was a joke, but I don't remember what it was.
You know, drag queen story.
Leave kiddos alone. FFS. I would have made decisions that I would have made the decisions that I made. Have not been happy if I transitioned way earlier in life. That seems to be a general consensus. This offends me on two grounds. Trans kids side of things, as if I had reading hard. This offends me on two grounds. The trans kid side of things, as I have begun to find my faith again and being kind of a Christian, the death of Christian kids hurts me. The death of kids hurts. The death of targeted Christian kids just is a little deeper of a dig.
Story hours is not something that the department funds.
Matt Gaetz looks like he bathes in baby blood. It's true. But the Matt Base donation is fantastic. I know just another guy's like,
Well, wait a second, that's actually not what the record seems to suggest. You were going to fund one at Ramstein Air Force Base. That one got canceled, but that's DOD insignia. That's a drag
Oh, yeah. Yeah, JK, you're right.
queen story hour for children. Then also at Malmstrom Air Force Base outside of Great Falls, Montana.
Like, I could feel the force. Just another guy.
You had a drag queen story hour for kids.
Now the son is absent from the... Yep.
Who funded these things, Mr. Secretary?
Listen, drag shows are not something that the Department of Defense supports or funds.
Yeah, a liar. Board member to defense contractor before he got this.
You commented that the dad was absent from his life. And I said, no, the son is absent from the dad. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Job. So then Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, admitted that he was not aware military bases were hosting drag queen story hours. Watch this.
Can I get copies of those? Because I'd like to take a look.
I never got taken to a drag show when I was in basic. I encourage everybody, go to a bar that has a drag show. That shit is fun. That shit is a lot of fun.
Look at those myself, actually. Take a look. And
we went with our couple friend and our other friend, the people who we did Sexy Science Theater. The shit was hilarious. I knew one of the dancers, so that was kind of cool. But they're fun.
find out what actually is going on there, because that's the first I'm hearing about that kind of stuff. I don't read those news stories. I don't know what you're talking about. I'd like to take a look at those because I don't agree with those.
Well, they're now in the official record.
Shouldn't be happening.
Thank you. Thank you for that admission.
No, kids shouldn't be there, but it's a good time.
Yeah. Actually, you'd like to go. You know, not an open-minded guy. Matt Gaetz represents North Florida in the U.S. Congress. Even if he never passes a bill, it's worth having him there just for moments like this. It's just amazing. What was your, being on the questioning side, what was your feeling about their...
Never been too keen on drag. Honestly, the only reason I went was to support a friend, but it wasn't a bad time. It wasn't a bad time at all.
Responses.
America's top military leaders have brought misery to almost every part of the globe they have touched. They put Iran in a position of power in Iraq. They armed ISIS in Syria. They turned over Afghanistan to the Taliban in the bloodiest way possible. We could have taken out the suicide bomber, didn't give the authorities. They didn't even get the vengeance part.
Is he talking about Syria? Man, I've heard some great takes on Syria from him.
Part right, Tucker? When they were supposed to take out ISIS, they took out a family on the way to a barbecue. And so now you see them trying to bring the misery and the ruin home to our country through this embrace of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Something about Congress, I think.
And this is real money. $70 million they've requested for enhancements to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is the most divisive stuff possible. And when I showed the Secretary of Defense evidence that it was happening in Nevada, in Montana, in Virginia, he just said, nope, it's not happening. And it makes you wonder, do these people have any sense of reality, or is the pain the point, whether it's DEI or the vaccine man?
Exactly, Sparks Heart. Nobody cared about drag until it was pushed on kids.
That they still don't have good answers for.
But in the end, it means that nobody wants to join.
Zombie Teddy, look, that's a bad litmus test.
In the military, and their recruiting numbers are dangerously down. Do they see a connection between their reckless, crazy behavior and the unwillingness of people to join up voluntarily?
We are in a recruiting collapse, and they say, well, we don't think DEI is the problem because we've sent out surveys and no one says it's the problem. They don't realize that the people offended by this conduct aren't going to take their stupid survey. Let me just be honest. A great share of the people who fight in our military come from the American South. And when you embrace these values that are so
No, drag queen is not a gender identity.
Antithetical to the part of the country I represent, you are really putting a downward pressure on the people we need to volunteer and fight, not for some faraway land, not to go build some democracy out of sand in Arabia, but for our country. And you have to wonder whether it is incompetence or a purposeful purge. I also pressed them on making sure we get our service members their full back pay and restoration of rank. Austin said he would not do that in the absence of a legal requirement to do so. So that is precisely the amendment I intend to offer to our National Defense Authorization Act.
Yeah. When you say you hate white men, you do kind of wonder, like, who's going to fight the wars then? Because that's who's always fought the wars. Actually.
Well, General Milley maybe didn't go to the drag queen show because he was too busy getting in touch with his white rage still. Who knows? But he gets credit for saying he wants to shut him down.
Loathsome. Mac.
Expect bad weather this week. We've had some rough weather so far.
Matt Gates, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Fox News. The neoliberal establishment has decided it can't win arguments. Nobody wants what they're selling at all, so why even bother to convince anybody? So instead, they're going right to force, and you're seeing that all over our country. And one of the ways they're inflicting force on people, inflicting pain, is through civil suits. Bring them to civil court, because anyone can file a lawsuit. And so there are a lot of well-funded lawsuits trying to shut people up or punish them for stepping out of line. And here's the latest example. This has not gotten enough coverage. So Tara Reid once worked for Joe Biden. He sexually assaulted her, and she made possibly the mistake of saying so out loud. You're not allowed to do that.
No, you can't talk about anything. Again, it's the justice system.
So in retaliation against her, the New York Times posted her social security number on...
Before we hold the fuck on, we'll get back to this in a second, but I got to check that ratio. We have 180 people watching and 120 likes. It's not bad, but it could be better. Guys, smash that like button. Share it out on your social media. If you feel so inclined, throw some money in the hat toward the goal. We are almost halfway there. If we fill it up. Okay.
Shut up! Be quiet!
If we fill up the goal, we could have a song or a horsecock. Depends whoever pushes us over the line. It's their pick. But we're about halfway there, which is not bad at all. Steve Dave for number 2 on the Awoo. On topic, the trans community is built around fear. They're afraid of options. They're afraid of free thought. They're afraid of their own allies. Fear has begun to bury them in this fight. Nashville is clear evidence of that. Yes and no. Yes and no. It's trans people are afraid to speak out against the community writ large, but that's neither here nor there. Speaking of bad weather, me and Zobles, I think you mean Zobles and I, were in a tornado Sunday. She could be my tornado. Wait. Something like that. I'm glad you guys are okay, Donkey Punch. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, the weather is looking like it's going to get a little rough going forward. Strong severe storms forecast Northeast Ohio on Wednesday. Yikes on bikes.
This has not gotten enough coverage. So Tara Reid once worked for Joe Biden.
What's quack? I was playing with my clicker. I'm sorry.
Sexually assaulted her, and she made possibly the mistake of saying so out loud. You're not allowed to do that. So in retaliation,
I'm getting ready for new Awoos. We're 2 on the train. Oh, Zobles.
Against her, the New York Times posted her social security number on her website. Can you imagine the ramifications of that? So Tara Reid sued.
Imagine posting someone's fucking social.
Sued the New York Times because you can't put people's social security numbers on a website. But a federal judge has now ruled against Tara Reid and said that she has to pay the legal fees of the New York Times. So they're still trying to crush her.
These people are A federal judge ruled in favor of the Amazon-owned Washington Post because she took them to court over posting her social security number. This is so fucking incestual.
And we think it's wrong. She joins us now. Thanks.
The Fed is protecting the Fed by rule of the Fed. Fuck the Fed.
So much for coming on. Did I misstate any of that? I mean, it seems like you came out and accused the sitting president of a sex crime, and we've spoken at great length about this on the air, and I don't think there's any question that it happened. You said so at the time, and now they're trying to hurt you for saying that. That's what it looks like to me.
Yes, this is just one of the many things that they've done, to try to silence me. But yeah, the lawsuit that I filed with
New York Times said same fucking thing.
was because on the first story that they did, the New York Times, and they used me as a basically a whipping post all of 2020 to try to silence and discredit me. But the first story was on Easter Sunday, and I was woken up very early in the morning by a friend who lived back east and said, hey, the online story on New York Times has your congressional ID showing your social security number. We need to get it down. It took a few hours. We got it down, and they did comply with taking it down, but it was
9 dead storms. Jesus.
it was very awful. So I did try to file a lawsuit. I lost. The judge ruled that it was in the public interest to print it.
So the Fed protected the federal judge protected the federal printing press by ruling that the federal government would be okay with posting her social security number. Jesus, it's so fucking incestual.
And I then was slapped with attorney's fees from New York Times.
Exactly, Zobles, because of course they did.
Upwards close to over $71,000.
Fucking nuke the Fed.
So. Yeah.
So you are not a rich person, I know from our conversations.
No.
So just 2 quick questions. How is it in the public's interest for the New York Times to publish your social security number of all private things?
Well, suddenly, I guess there was a great interest in freedom of speech, in freedom of the press. So freedom of the press would be the impetus for that, and sort of a more of a legal argument. And I don't want to bore your audience with all of that, but there's been different ways that...
Did somebody say incestual? Yeah, me. The federal government is the most incestual thing on the face of the earth. It's worse than Hollywood.
The, Biden administration has come after me. They've come after me with the DOJ, with sealed warrants on my Twitter, which are of record, and there's been, a little bit of press about that. They took...
Trump accusers get book deals and get brought on CNN. They get tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from campaigns and funding. Biden accusers get the DOJ and the federal government on their ass, their social security number doxed by mainstream media. Federal judges ruling against them to have that taken down, and they get searched by the FBI. Are you noticing a difference here?
My, communications on Twitter and all of that. So yeah, it's been, watching Joe Biden.
Do we have a link to that, Damon? I would like to take a look. Incestuous. Isn't that what I said?
Biden take a wrecking ball to I've been experiencing this wrecking ball to my life, but now I've been watching the last couple of years take a wrecking ball to the United States, including, the proxy war that Russia and NATO is, and U.S. is fighting against Russia, and upwards of $100 billion going over there when we have dire circumstances here. So all of those things that I talked
incestuous, same
about
thing.
That I criticized Joe Biden about, besides the awful experience of being sexually assaulted by him when I was a Senate staffer in 1993, people are seeing just the true Joe Biden of how corrupt this regime is.
That is the perfect way to put that. This is a corrupt regime, and it should be, well, I can't even say it should be opposed, because if you oppose it, they're going to show up at your house, and they're going to shit on your they're going to shoot your goddamn dog.
And if there needs to be any regime change, it doesn't need to be in other countries. It needs to happen here. Now,
I agree.
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
We're seeing how cruel and ruthless they are. And not only they don't believe all women, they will hurt women who disobey. And you're a perfect example.
I don't like calling every admin a regime. I think it is perfectly acceptable and accurate to call this one a regime, because this is the most authoritarian government we've seen in a long time.
Further, Tucker, the New York Times.
And this is why we need to nuke the lying fucking Fed.
Times has become, the legacy media has become like an arm of the Biden administration, like the DOJ and the FBI. I mean, look at what just happened to Matt Taibbi, who testified about, the different ways that they were trying to suppress U.S. citizen speech and using taxpayer money to do it and control the conversation and control the narrative. He got visited by an IRS agent the day of his testimony. So
they send the IRS to your house. Yeah. No.
So the federal IRS is now in cahoots with the federal DOJ to protect the federal wing of the government. I hate this.
Not so. We're all waiting for that, and I know that you are. You're living it now. Terry, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson Tonight. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. A Fox News alert. American politics was thrown.
Obama killed American citizens overseas with drones. Nothing happened. Biden is literally sending American citizens to die in Ukraine so he can keep getting 10% of the big guy. He is actively sending them to die.
Into complete chaos, perhaps permanently, about 3 hours ago, when a grand jury in Manhattan, one of the most liberal cities in America, a place where 80% voted for Joe Biden in the last election, decided to indict Biden's political opponent in the upcoming election, the Republican frontrunner, a man who leads by 30 points in polls, Donald Trump.
Though not directly, he's encouraging it.
And the jury did this at the urging of a man called Alvin Bragg. He's the Manhattan district attorney who has been famous so far by making the city much more dangerous by refusing to enforce laws against crimes like robbery and rape. Now, we don't know at this hour what the indictment says. We don't know.
I think I did it right. No, you're going to have to mail it. You're going to have to Discord message it to me, sorry, or Twitter.
Specifically what the charges are, but previous news reports suggest they will emanate from an alleged payment 7 years ago, a payment that federal regulators said violated no law, but that Alvin Bragg apparently believes is a crime. Either way, the net result is Donald Trump is the first former president of the United States ever to be indicted. So no matter what happens next,
and all this by his political opponent and the corrupt federal DOJ.
Can be certain there is no coming back from this moment. There could be retaliation from red states. The governor of Florida has already said, Ron DeSantis has already issued a statement saying that he will not participate in any extradition of Donald Trump to New York. That's apparently scheduled for next week.
This could, though nothing will probably come of it, this could be incredibly bad for national homogeny. I don't have Twitter or Discord. Well, okay, I guess we don't get to watch it then, unless I can find it on YouTube.
And the history of cable news is written, assuming anyone bothers to write it, but if it ever is written, Glenn Beck will have his own chapter as possibly the greatest synthesizer of...
Oh, here we go.
Never seen before in our country. Beginning with the radical left, George Soros-backed prosecutor Alvin Bragg.
I thought he was,
who campaigned on the fact that he would get President Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. This is a guy campaigning. He wanted to get President Trump at any cost, and this before he knew anything about me, didn't know a thing about me. He was campaigning. As it turns out, virtually everybody that has looked at this case, including rhinos and even hardcore Democrats, say there is no crime and that it should never have been brought. Never have been brought.
Really? You think?
Even people that aren't big fans have said it. They said this is not the right thing to do. It's an insult to our country, as the world is already laughing at us for so many other reasons, like our open borders, our incompetent withdrawal from
He's campaigning right now.
Where we left behind
Is this live? Yes, this is live.
$85 billion worth of...
This is live right now. He's campaigning right now.
Lost 13 magnificent young lives and far too many to mention that are so badly hurt with the loss.
He's campaigning, so I'm going to campaign too. We're almost halfway to goal, which is fantastic, and you can help push us right over the line. If we can get a horsecock over Trump, my fucking night would be made. My week would be made. Nay, my month would be made.
Dominant. We're going to be dominant within 6 months, more than any other nation ×2. We had this all just 3 years ago. Our raging crime statistics, if you look in Democrat-run cities, numbers the likes of which we have never seen before. The open
Damon likes the idea.
Countries of the use of nuclear weapons, something never mentioned or discussed by outside nations during the Trump administration, and which could very well lead under
Didn't he have a whole thing with Kim Jong-un and nukes?
To an all-out nuclear World War III can happen. We're not very far away from it, believe it or not.
Yeah, he would, Zach.
An
We'll
economy
open up
that
the
has
gas
been
fields.
crippled
That's
by
it.
the biggest inflation
That's a
we've
wrap.
seen in more than 60 years. And a military that I used to defeat ISIS in 4 weeks. They said it would take 4 years. 4 weeks. To kill al-Baghdadi and Soleimani. That has now gone woke at the top levels by trying to indoctrinate everyone down to the lowest ranking patriot. But now they have really stepped up their efforts by indicting the 45th president of the United States who received...
Don't speak in the third person.
75 million
If I didn't know better, I'd say Trump had coke jaw right now.
in the history of our country.
The fuck?
And in the wings, they've got a local racist Democrat district attorney in Atlanta who is doing everything in her power to indict me over an absolutely perfect phone call, even more perfect than the one I made with the president of Ukraine. Remember, I kept saying that's a perfect call.
What
This
the
one is
fuck
more
is he
perfect.
talking about?
Nobody said, sir, you shouldn't say that. Many people on the phone or hung up in disgust because of something I inappropriately said, because nothing was said wrong. In fact, at the end of the call, we agreed to continue our conversation about election fraud and election fraud, specifically in Georgia, at a later time. Many people on the phone, including lots of lawyers, nobody found anything wrong with
Do not
that.
tell me Trump is going to
Perfect call,
start
and so
doing the
promotion
Ukraine
tour.
shit.
Many months later, all of a sudden they say, you know, I remember Trump making a call. Let's look at that. This fake case was brought only to interfere with the upcoming 2024 election, and it should be dropped immediately.
Baba Yaga, that's a good point. You can't tell people elections are rigged and still expect them to go out and vote. What the fuck is going on outside? What is happening?
Boxes, under the Act, I'm supposed to negotiate with NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration, which as of this date is a radical left troublemaking organization that red flags the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights as dangerous and triggering. Can you imagine? This is what we have to deal with.
So what does this have to do with the indictment?
But there is no criminality under the Presidential Records Act. That is not what it's all about. We were negotiating in very good faith, proper way, in order to return some or all of the documents that I openly and in very plain sight brought with me to Mar-a-Lago from
Thank you,
our
Zombies.
beautiful White House, just as virtually every other president has done in the...
Okay, we'll come back to this, see if he gets on point. If not, then we're just going to go back to Tucker.
Big ideas ever to appear on camera. And a lot of people made fun of Glenn Beck over the years for that, but if you go back and watch the tape, you will find out that maybe more than any other person on television, Glenn Beck got it right. Again and again and again. So we thought tonight is the perfect opportunity to hear from him. He's the co-founder of Blaze Media. He's just written a book called The Great Reset, and he joins us now for an overview of what we're watching. Glenn Beck.
Well, Papa Yaga is on point with that. We don't want to hear about what happened in the past. We want to hear what he's going to do in the future. That is goddamn right.
Beck, thank you so much for coming on tonight. How
Thank you.
would you
very
interpret
kind of you
this?
to say.
Well, it's true.
So let me, I've got a couple of things here for you. Let me just go through. I'm going to bring I think
Glenn Beck seems to be on whatever diet What's-Her-Face was.
a different perspective to this. We have the banking crisis. They say it's fine. It's just beginning. We, yesterday, we had the Saudis and Brazil and China enter a deal to where the petrodollar is over. Brazil and China are going to trade in their own currency. That's the beginning of the end of our currency. That means a dollar collapse. That means we become Venezuela. We will have war with...
And that's especially going to be bad when we lose the petrodollar. Sanute doesn't pay me mind. I pay you much mind.
China. We will have war with Russia and Iran. We have the restrict bill. We have social media and our NSA and everybody else in bed with each other, silencing people.
It's almost like the federal government has none of your best interest in mind. All right, let's take a peek.
That was okay, but nobody's done it like Joe Biden. This lunatic special prosecutor named Jack Smith, I wonder what it was prior to a change, who others of his ilk say he's even worse than they are.
You still have PI. I don't understand.
We, of course, have the raccoon dogs, which we all know is bullcrap. And now this week we have a new gun grab.
Skip.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. The defining principle of the American legal system, really of American life.
I love Trumpety rambles. He's doing a whole lot of rambling right here, and I'm not here for it. I'm not super big into the rambly, meandery stuff. It doesn't scratch me where I itch.
The principle that has kept us free is equal justice. And the principle is fairly simple. No matter what you look like or who your parents were or what your politics might be, the law treats...
But I will say that ratio is close to mathing. We're close to the halfway point, and Jay Dyer is close to being ousted. Jason Dyer, sorry, is close to being ousted as Stream Boss. Not much to take him out. If you want to wrap the show up with a new Stream Boss, now's your chance.
You exactly the same way as it would any other American. In this country, justice is blind. Now, that's a lofty standard, but because Americans have long believed in fairness, and because most of the people in charge of administering that system have behaved in good faith, this country has, for the most part, lived up to its core ideal for 250 years, making it the greatest country in the world.
Duh, USA.
But the populist surge of 2016 changed everything. Permanent Washington suddenly felt more threatened by its own voters, by American voters, than by any foreign adversary. Donald Trump, to them, seemed more dangerous than ISIS. They panicked. And in their panic, our leaders decided to turn the American legal system, as well as the American intel agencies, and if necessary, the U.S. Army, against their political opponents. They felt they had...
Is it? It can't be storming. Fireworks, maybe? Maybe there's a war going on.
No choice. In doing this, they abandoned the ancient principle of equality under the law, and they replaced it with what is effectively a loyalty oath. Opponents of the regime became enemies of the state. That's a
enemies of... Well, this has been a thing since questioning the election was enough to get you arrested.
Huge change, and you're seeing the results of that change tonight. Just 24 hours after a Manhattan grand jury indicted Joe Biden's rival in the next presidential race, another jury, also in New York, convicted a Republican social media influencer called Douglas Mackey. What did Mackey do wrong? Well, Douglas Mackey's crime was mocking Hillary Clinton voters online. You're seeing on your screen the meme that Mackey posted on Twitter during the 2016 election. In that meme, Mackey suggests it's possible to vote for president by text message, because only Hillary voters could be stupid enough to believe something so absurd. But of course, in real life, no one did believe that. Mackey's insult did not alter a single vote in the election, and no one has proved otherwise. The government brought forth not a single victim of this crime. It couldn't. Douglas Mackey was joking. Nobody believed he was a federal election official. And in fact, his social media profile pictured a Donald Trump hat. It was unmistakable. This was mockery. But in the wake of the 2016 election and the rising hysteria about Donald Trump, mocking the Democratic Party became a crime.
We covered this yesterday. This dude's going to jail.
Women are stupid, and I don't.
So as a result, tonight, Douglas Mackey faces 10 years in prison.
Genitals. Your
genitals. What? Show me your genitals. Your genitalia. Show me your genitals. Why is this a penny off from liquor and whores? Is it wine coolers and crack whores? No, it's what happens with liquor and whores. I'm sorry, I fucked up trying to pause that. Let me replay that.
Women are stupid and I don't respect them. That's right, I just have sex with them. Show me your genitals. Your genitals. What? Show me your genitals.
Genitalia. I forgot I had that. Oh, I forgot I had that one. Holy shit, that's good. That's why it's a penny off, Gamer Valine. Thank you very much. Oh, that's good. Oh shit, thank you, Valine. Much appreciated. What should we call that? Is that the same guy from Stupid Poor People? Yes.
Hysteria about Donald Trump mocking the Democratic
Just
Party.
another guy. I need a
crime.
name.
So as a result, tonight, Douglas Mackey faces 10 years in prison. The case against Doug Mackey is the most shocking attack on freedom of speech in this country in our lifetimes. It's also a useful lesson in who will be allowed to speak going forward. As it turns out, a woman called Christina Wong posted an almost identical meme the same year, back during the 2016 election. But unlike Doug Mackey, Wong voted for Hillary Clinton. Hey, Trump supporters, she wrote, skip poll
I'm calling it Treat Women Properly.
lines and text in your vote. Same crime. But the Department of Justice under Joe Biden has shown no interest in prosecuting Christina Wong. Do you see how this works? Have you internalized our new partisan legal standards? That would be the point of the exercise. They want you to know the rules. We'll have more on the Doug Mackey case and what it means for you and for America in just a moment. And by the way, Douglas Mackey is not the only Trump supporter who's now going to prison because of how he voted. According to new reporting from Julie Kelly, the FBI's counter.
So if you guys didn't catch that because of Gamer Valine wanting to see all of your genitals, a guy who ran a pro-Trump troll Twitter account is facing 10 years in jail for running a pro-Trump troll Twitter account.
Counterterrorism Division just arrested a grandmother in the state of Virginia on 4 misdemeanors this week. What exactly did she do? She entered the Capitol with her elderly mother for a total of 15 minutes on January 6th. She hurt no one. She destroyed nothing. She just stood there. And yet, at the very same time, during the very same week...
Call the donation, show me. No, I don't like that. I feel like treating women properly is the best name for that. Treating women properly. And number one on the Awoo train. Zach's born. Damn, Zach's born. My boy. Train start. It's only a crime if you do it. That's exactly it. It's only a crime if we do it.
None of the transgenderist thugs who invaded the Tennessee State House yesterday have been rounded up by the FBI Counterterror Division, and of course they won't be. Joe Biden just honored them with a Trans Day of Visibility. So what we're watching here, unmistakably, is bigger than Donald Trump, but we're going to...
Water the tree, that's the... Water the tree is the McKinley.
Begin tonight with the latest on his case, and we're doing that because he is, and this is not at all incidental to his prosecution, he is the leading Republican candidate for president. Now...
All right, I have one other one I got to add, so I'll take a look at that a little bit later. Valine.
Trump apparently is being charged not with treason or insurrection or collusion or even shoplifting, but with something much smaller. A slew of process crimes relating to a payment he apparently made 7 years ago. In no fair system would that be a crime under the law 7 years later. But the...
Because the crime is being the wrong political party.
Soros-funded district attorney in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, has stitched together a Frankenstein legal theory to justify this process.
Shit, we're almost 60% to goal, right? Is that the math? 20. Yeah, so almost 60. Yes. Yes, almost 60.
Execution. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible because the statute of limitations has passed. And as if all of that were not third world
Oh, come on. You know these people don't play by the same rules.
enough, someone leaked the news of Donald Trump's grand jury indictment to the media. Now, that in itself is a crime under the law in New York. In fact, a much bigger crime than those under which Donald Trump is being charged. Will Alvin Bragg prosecute the leaker? Please. It's almost certainly someone in his own office. Nor will Bragg prosecute, as many people have pointed out today, the crimes of Hunter Biden or other Democratic partisans. Those aren't rare or hard to find. Bragg will not prosecute Hillary Clinton, even though she just admitted to violating campaign's finance law by paying for the fake Russian dossier. What's fascinating is that none of this has alerted the watchdogs to government abuse, our media. No, just the opposite. The media are cheerleading our new standards of tribal justice. Why?
Because they're benefiting from it for right now. This could all change and they'll be screaming bloody murder when it does, but they're benefiting from it right now.
The good news is here, it's our legal system in action saying nobody is above the law.
Nobody's above the law, not Republicans and not Democrats, not Donald Trump, not anybody.
I tend to think that no.
Except Hillary Clinton and Fauci and Epstein and all the people we know for a fact broke the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No person above the law.
We have political leaders who are not above the law.
We don't believe that anybody should be above the law.
They were all beating the same drum, if you will. No one is above the law. No one is.
Shut up, Baldy. Let's see what's going on over here. One more peek in.
Years that if you admit your guilt, you will be in jail for 90 days. But if you don't,
they're trying to jail him.
If we go through a trial and you're found guilty, you're going away for 10 years and maybe longer, which for a 75-year-old man with a great family really means life. What the prosecutors and judge did to that man, I will never forget, because it's right out of the old Soviet Union. That's where we are. They said, you say anything about Trump, meaning that's bad, and you won't even have to serve the 90 days. You'll walk free. And they say that to many of my employees. We have this Jack Smith lunatic threatening people every single day through his representatives. They're threatening jail terms. But talk about Trump and you'll go free. This is where we are as a nation. Who would have thought? They can't beat us at the ballot box, so they try and beat us through the law. That's the country in which we live, however, right now. The USA is a mess.
Okay.
Above the law, today's evidence is that that includes Trump as well.
New life has been breathed into that saying no person is above
Oh, yeah. Don't forget the 50 million illegals that are here, right?
the law.
Let's be completely clear. None of the people you just saw care a thing about justice. Let that word burn in their mouths. No, they are obviously bloodthirsty. They would cheer as you were necklaced in the street. No one is above the law, they would scream as you writhed on the ground. They would. But as long as they're still pretending that the old standards of fairness and equal application of the law apply,
which they do not,
then whatever happened to Sam Bankman-Fried? Remember?
He's above the law.
Him? Largest financial crime in history? To this day, no one has explained or bothered to even try to tell us how Sam Bankman-Fried was able to make his bail. That was set at $250 million. All that has been disclosed to us, the long-suffering public, is that a former dean at Stanford and a Stanford computer scientist put up $500,000 and $200,000 respectively, and his parents put up the value of their home. So that leaves quite a big gap. Where did the rest of the money come from? No one will tell us. No one in the media is asking because no one cared.
Because the media profits off of it.
Sam Bankman-Fried didn't pay off a...
Valine's got a strong little hold on HP there for Stream Boss. That'd be a tough take out there. But we are almost 60%.
Former mistress, no. He defrauded 1 million people and ran off...
The like ratio is looking Nice.
Off with houses in the Bahamas, and yet the system is protecting him because he voted correctly. That's remarkable. But he's not the only criminal that Washington refuses to prosecute. There are so many of them. The people who destroyed the US dollar, for example. The ones who degraded the United States military and turned it into a joke, which it is.
A couple of witchers would do it. 2 witchers would put us over the goal.
The ones who flooded rural America with opioids and killed hundreds of thousands. The people currently selling our oil reserves to China. None of them have ever been prosecuted.
No, sin does not care about no support bitches.
In fact, they've all been promoted.
I can play a decent mercy, and that's about as far as it goes.
We'll have more on them in just a moment. But for now, we'd like to start with Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner who's been indicted for non-existent crimes in the middle of a presidential race. We have a very specific question about how this is going to affect the race, because, of course, affecting the race is the entire point. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens.
Fake Gamer Cat, of course. Did someone say Witcher? Yes. Someone said we're a couple Witchers away. We are 2 to be over goal.
Ellen has followed all of this closely from the inside. She's the founder of the Law Group. Harmeet, thanks so much for coming on tonight. So let's start with a specific question germane to the race in which Donald Trump is engaged. He's the front runner by 30 points. You have seen cases, politicized cases, as with Roger Stone, in which the person charged is gagged by the judge and not allowed to speak about the charges. This is increasingly common in violation of the First Amendment, obviously, but it happens.
It is a blatant violation of the First Amendment and also fairly unequally what am I looking for? Implemented. There we go.
If this happens to Donald Trump, he will lose his free speech rights as a candidate in a presidential race. And I'm just wondering if you think that could potentially happen.
Well, it very much could happen. In fact, we've seen it talked about on television already. And in fact, the president has been subject to former president subject to similar allegations in other litigation that he's involved in, also way beyond the statute of limitations. The story is that because he says mean things about people sometimes on his free speech platforms, that he should not be allowed to speak about a fundamental issue of due process that governs the future of our country and how we look at justice and how we look at the politicization of this political process. And so that would be a gross miscarriage of justice if it occurs, and I would not be surprised to see this politicized prosecutor make that request of this judge.
I honestly think it's impossible to imagine greater election interference, a greater or more...
And that's exactly what it is. Election interference. That's exactly what it is.
...more aggressive attack on our democracy than gagging a presidential candidate in a presidential year. I mean, Vladimir Putin has never dreamed of any attack on the United States more damaging than that. Would anyone be able to stop it?
Well, certainly the lawyers in this case will argue against that, and it may be the kind of issue that they seek an immediate appeal on if they lose. But at the end of the day, if a court sets those rules, then, you know, a litigant has to abide by them or be in contempt of court. And, you know, that itself would be a very dangerous course to pursue. And so,
yes,
no matter which way you cut it, this entire case, from its inception to its continuation to its now being brought to fruition, what we hear from the New York Times, not from anything that the DA's office has told.
Oh, shit. Fucking Hassan Piker is getting bodied by Nicki Minaj on Twitter.
The defense team is that there are 30-plus charges. We don't know what they are. The New York Times knows what they are.
What the fuck?
And
why did this pop up?
This is not the way that justice is meant to go in the United States. And what I'm afraid of, Tucker, is that this isn't just...
That's from 2 years ago. Why is that showing up? Hassan is trending right now. I clicked on the trend, and it was shit from 2 years ago. Fuck, Twitter is so broken.
Going to be about Donald Trump. It's going to undermine all citizens' confidence.
No, it was the original one, Nunya. What the fuck? Why is... What? Fuck. I hate new Twitter. I hate new Twitter.
In the rule of law in this country.
Half my fucking homepage is shit I don't even follow.
And that is really tragic.
Yeah, it is. And it has far-reaching and lasting generational consequences that I don't think anyone's thought through. Harmeet, Dylan, I appreciate your wise and measured perspective as always. Thank you. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are... So I think it's become pretty obvious to any...
By the way, hey, Nunya, guys, bow down to your still top-of-the-line comma club leader.
One who's paying close attention and being honest with himself, that what you're seeing is not really a contest between Republicans and Democrats.
Yet somehow it has turned into one, as everything does.
The left and right. It's a contest between the people in charge and everybody else. It's not actually partisan in a traditional sense. There's really one party on the big issues being economics and foreign policy. There's total agreement in Washington. And so once you understand that, then you can go backward into recent history and reassess a lot of the things that you saw through a very different lens. And one of those things is the imprisonment of the Democratic governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich. And in retrospect, it's very obvious that he was sent to prison for political reasons, incarcerated for 8 years on bogus corruption charges. His case is a lot more interesting than most people understand. He's learned a lot. He just responded to the indictment of Donald Trump. This is the Democratic former governor of Illinois. And he wrote this, quote, President Trump fired me, freed me, and now he's getting effed like me. Weaponized prosecutors are destroying our country. It's time for Republicans and Democrats to stand up and defend our Constitution against third world politics.
Again, it's all fine and good now until it starts being used against them. Then suddenly things take a bad turn.
Really a view that speaks for probably the majority in this country. Rod Blagojevich, the former governor, joins us now. Governor, thank you so much for coming on. So tell us I think that tweet kind of summarizes it pretty well, but expand on that a little.
Fake hair. That's fake hair. That's not real hair.
Bit, given your own experience with a similar prosecution.
Well, I had the misfortune of being arrested as a sitting governor at 6 o'clock in the morning when my little girls, 5 and 12 years old, were asleep, hadn't gotten up yet for school. And then it was a major event, and I was allegedly trying to sell President-elect Obama's Senate seat. It was a political deal. Obama started the whole thing, sent an emissary to me to talk about a political deal. The appellate court eventually reversed the sale of the Senate seat. It was a big lie, but Winston Churchill said a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on. And so I see what they're doing to President Trump, and it's more than deja vu all over again to me. I don't like what they did to me. I would never give in. I fought back, and as a result, for political things, no one even alleges I took a penny. They gave me a 14-year sentence and put me in a higher security prison where no governor's been, where my home was a 6-foot by 8-foot prison cell, and I was in there with people who committed murder because they were trying to squeeze me. And they gave me this long sentence, I truly believe, to bury me and with it the truth, because it was a corrupt prosecution. They tried me twice, used an unlawful standard to get convictions at a second trial when they couldn't convict me on their fake charges the first trial. And they did it to a Democrat governor at the AAA level. What they're doing now to President Trump at the major league level is not only frightening.
I cannot pay attention to a single word he's saying because all I'm doing is staring at his fucking hair.
Glenn Greenwald has long reported on the political abuses of the legal system. He is the host of System Update on Rumble, and our friend, he joins us tonight. Glenn, you would think somebody would say, look, I don't like Trump, but this is doing grave damage to institutions we're going to need 2 years from now and for the next 100 years. But not one person that we can find has said that.
I heard you in your prior segment saying, where's people like Karl Rove and George Bush and the people who lecture us? I think people like Victoria Nuland demonstrate the theater.
The Ken Ham youth pastor. Jesus Christ.
Behind this whole Republican versus Democratic war.
Yes.
This is the key to the whole thing, which is that they are determined not to criminalize conservatism or the Republican Party. They're fine with people like Jeb Bush or John McCain or Mitt Romney or Nikki Haley or Lindsey Graham or whoever. They're determined to criminalize Donald Trump and his movement because the only time Victoria Nuland wasn't in government, she worked for Clinton, then she worked for Dick Cheney, then she worked for Obama, now she worked for Biden, was when Donald Trump was elected president. So that's the only way you get these people out of government, and that's why they're single-mindedly determined to criminalize not the Republican Party, but Donald Trump and his movement, and that's what we saw yesterday with his indictment and today with this person who's now going to prison because of anti-Hillary Clinton memes he posted on Twitter.
Not only that, but the fact that, you know, Trump probably going to get fucked too.
The problem is in organizing the system that way, they cut out the majority of the population. Are the majority of American voters of either party in favor, for example, of going to war with nuclear-armed Russia and China? I don't think there's any evidence the majority is in favor of that. Do you?
No, or for example, keeping troops in Syria, which I would bet you barely anybody even knows that the United States is doing, let alone wants to. And yet Matt Gaetz had a resolution to withdraw all troops from Syria, saying we shouldn't be spending money on that. We should be spending money here at home. And the Republicans and Democrats joined together, the establishment wings, to say, no, we want to let Joe Biden keep troops in Syria. It's the establishment wings of both parties that are the real enemy, and they're the ones who rule no matter what you go and do at the voting booth. Donald Trump was the only one who could disrupt it, and that's why they want to criminalize that movement.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you were just to write out the crimes of Donald Trump, being obnoxious, okay, versus the crimes of Toria Nuland, destroying the West, you know, one list would be longer than the other, but who's getting indicted? Glenn Greenwald, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Tucker.
Very much. Subscribe.
All right. That is it, guys. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Thank you for an incredible show tonight. As always, best goddamn chat online. Thank you for all the amazing donations. You guys have a lovely evening. And depending on when we have a show tomorrow, I'll tell you all about the Science Center trip. I'll catch you later. Good night, guys.